Hi, I'm Justine, and I'm here to tell you being mentally ill isn't the end of the world. I know what it's like to live with a mental illness. It's hard. You're constantly trying to hide your struggles from others, and you feel like you're weaker than others because of your illness. But that's not true. So many badasses struggle with mental illnesses, but they don't talk about them because they're afraid of being judged or thought of as weak minded. Well, guess what? They're not. We can change that by talking openly about our struggles and sharing our stories with each other in a positive light. This is why I created Mentally a Badass, so we can come together as badasses who are also mentally ill or who has had it rough in life and share our stories with one another in a safe place that celebrates our strengths rather than shames our weaknesses. I hope this podcast helps you feel less alone in this crazy life of ours, and I hope it makes your life just a little bit better. Hey everybody, welcome back to Mentally a Badass. My name is Justine, and today I have a guest that found Mentally a Badass, and I wanted to invite her on here because she's also a mental health advocate. And she's going to be talking about her experience today with her diagnosis of bipolar disorder back in 2010. We all know back in 2010, there was a lot of stigma around it. We're going to be opening up about that. She also does have a lot of work that she does as a mental health advocate. So we're going to dive into that as well. And then we're going to talk about her treatment. I hope that this conversation can help others into if they're scared to ask for help, to ask for help. So yeah, I'm so happy to welcome you today, Amanda.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. So let's do a little bit of a background on you. You are in sunny California in San Diego, and you told me that you used to live in Seattle, Washington. Is that right?
That's correct. And unfortunately, it's actually cloudy right now in San Diego.
Oh,
So the sun
go figure on that. Yeah. Oh goodness. That's well, I feel like sometimes it's sunny out there.
definitely most of the time.
Yeah. And that's just so ironic that like you're from like you live in the Seattle area and right now I'm like in the area, which typically I'm
hmm
in Florida, which is a sunny state. I was in Seattle last night actually.
Oh, nice.
Just enjoying. I've never seen like the holidays in Seattle, so I was like, I want to go
hmm
there just to check it out. So it was
There you go.
fun, very gloomy.
Yes, I lived in Seattle for 3 years, and I
hmm
actually had a white Christmas once, so that was awesome.
Yeah. So wait, so where did you like grow up?
So I grew up in San Diego,
Okay.
kind of the suburb. It's called El Cajon. So it's about 20 minutes from downtown San Diego. And
hmm
then I went to a community college up in the San Francisco area. The suburb is called San Mateo. And then,
hmm
like I said, I lived in Seattle again in my late 20s in Seattle in Ballard.
Okay, cool. Wait, what was the reason that you moved to Seattle?
Just kind of new experiences, kind of
Okay.
full. Right, but yeah, we won't talk about that.
Okay. I mean, if you
Happily
want to.
married now.
Yes, yes, yes. We can definitely talk about that, how you found your love. Look at that. Look at you. Oh my sarcasm. I have a very interesting personality. I'm sure you've seen it. Um okay, so let's start on the foundation of here, because everything, steps into you being an advocate, and typically everyone who's an advocate has been through something rough that would want to help others. So let's talk a little bit general about child trauma. How do you believe that childhood trauma can be prevented?
So that's the interesting thing about childhood trauma, especially in my experience. It happened to me when I was about 2 to 10 years old. So at the age of two, you're kind of defenseless. There's nothing really you can do.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I was about 10 years old that I finally understood that what was happening was wrong. And so I stood up for myself, and then it stopped. But that's what's interesting about childhood trauma is that and this took a lot of therapy and counseling to understand, is that you are a child. You are supposed to be protected and cared for by your parents, your family, and it's not necessarily your job to have to prevent it. Through growing and counseling and things like that, it took a lot to not blame myself for what happened, but
hmm
how to take the steps to learn from it, grow from it, cope with it, and overcome it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm sorry that you had I don't know what you went through, but I'm sorry that how that had, ugh,
It's okay.
words. I'm sorry that had happened to you.
It's
Gosh,
okay. It's
tongue
okay.
twister. But that was pretty cool that at the age of 10, you were able to stand up for yourself. A lot of people feel like powerless. A lot of children feel powerless and they feel that they can. So kudos to you on that.
Thank
Um, the goal with mental health advocacy, what you do and what I do is to really change the future
hmm
because I feel like childhood trauma, and this is my take. What I'm doing for my, so I've been through my childhood trauma and I'm fine with like, my mom already has said her sorries and like whatever, but I grew up in like a very hostile household. So like
hmm
a lot of being screamed at, scared, feared, etc. That's kind of like a general overview. Also had a lot of hostility in schools, bullied, all of that. So I just feel like really leveraging social media to like educate people on how to properly talk to children because my mom, she would tell me that she didn't realize, what she did had such a huge effect on me.
Right.
And she had her mom who was even worse
Oh, no.
than my mom. My mom thankfully never actually physically hit me.
Yeah.
Um, her mom did. So she
No.
definitely did do better than her mom, obviously.
hmm
But I
Yeah, you're so,
know, yeah, I know how it feels. And other thing too, which is bullying. You know what
yeah.
I mean? Like, there's still so much. I want to bring this up because it's so relevant, but also it's not my story, so I'm not going to. Cause it's so essentially some things that I am hearing that like people are still getting severely bullied, and there's kids committing suicide, and I've been seeing a lot of
Yeah,
it on TikTok
really.
as well. Um, I worked in the school system. I was a substitute teacher for like a year, and I see it, the
Yeah.
bullying and all that. I literally got someone, I think got someone suspended or whatever. But my point is that I just feel like I really hope schools can actually start taking it seriously and not putting the BS of stop bullying like in the
Yeah. I
hallway
think it's
or it's
even
just
harder now that we have social media and,
yeah.
kids are on social media, by the age of 8, 9, 10, and they don't know what they're doing. They're seeing content or people leave comments to them and they're not
Oh yeah.
emotionally mature enough yet
Mm-hmm.
to process it or know how to respond. And yeah, I just feel like social media can definitely take it to a whole new level. And,
a
you know,
hundred percent.
yeah.
So recently, actually, it's interesting that you said that. Last night I was just looking through like the people who like my stuff. I like to just like look at their stories and see what they're about.
hmm
And then some of the people that like the stuff I ferment the mentally badass content are like minors. So they're like young kids.
That's
There was
good.
yeah, so there was this one I was looking at some stories and some of it was just really sad. And I felt like I wanted to like respond to be like, I'm there for you, but also I don't want to be like a creeper, you know what I mean? Like I have to like remember their minors and stuff like that. But I mean, yeah, I was watching some stories and one girl, she had a screenshot of someone who responded back to her story calling her like flat chested and she was like
oh,
13 years old.
oh my goodness.
Part of me will be like, I want to beat this person up. Like but but that's like the Leo in New Jersey of me. I'm originally from New Jersey. But
Good.
not the point. So and then another person, she was saying how in her story that, oh, my mom's getting married right now and she never told me.
Oh my
And I was
goodness.
saying that, and she was crying, and I was like, I just like wanted to hug them, but also, like I said, I didn't want to like respond back, and they're gonna be like,
Yeah.
"Wow, I
It's a
like
little
this person's
hard.
content," and now they're like sliding into my DMs.
Yeah, because I know on my Instagram, Fierce Fighting Spirit, I do say, if you need help, you can
Hmm.
DM. I offer that support, but definitely when
Hmm.
they're minors, that's a little different.
Yeah, I just gotta like remember that I'm like a 27-year-old woman. Like,
And I think too, I think I think it comes a lot to the parents, like
true.
starting because I too used to be a preschool teacher, boys and
Hmm.
girls club, YMCA, and I think it starts with the adults in that child's life needs to instill confidence in them, like starting at a
Yeah.
small age, telling them they can do anything they want.
Hmm.
No, saying no is okay, telling them that they are smart and courageous, and just basically building up that kid's self-esteem so that it's inevitable. There's times in every teenager's life where you may be called something or told
Hmm.
something that's not true, or you hear a rumor about yourself.
Oh
And
my
it's
God, it's a good idea.
really,
It's a good idea to kind of bring that up to them and make
it's
them aware. So when it does
yeah,
happen, they don't wonder, why are people so mean to me? Like, what's wrong with me? Because that's what
yeah,
how I felt. I was never taught like, oh, okay, just letting you know there's a chance people could not be the nicest people, or just kind of putting them in a way where you're not
yeah.
trying to scare them, of course. Because like I said, a lot of times when I was getting bullied, I'm like, I always question like, what is wrong with me? And
Yeah,
because you're a young kid
yeah,
and you're
you-
and your brain's developing, and if you keep hearing you're worthless, you're stupid, you're ugly, your brain believes that.
exactly. Yeah. And I think that's where it comes where, because, not every child has the most supportive parents, but maybe if you're a teacher or you work
Hmm.
with kids, or you're a neighbor or you're an aunt, just from a small age, instilling that in them. Like I have a godson who's 5 years old now, but I
Hmm.
just tell him all the time, like, you're so smart, you're so strong, you can do anything you want. And just trying to tell that to kids that, you know, don't worry if someone's talking bad about you. Like, yourself, you have the people that care for you, and just always giving that mindset to them.
Right. I'm trying to think like if I had that, like if I had like a parent that was just always telling me that, but I don't think so. Like I'm pretty sure that that just wasn't just in their minds. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like my mom obviously she did defend me when it comes to the bullying. Like she would go to the principal and try to make a change, and the principal would believe the other parents, and it would become
Mhm.
kind of situation. So I eventually left that particular school.
Yeah.
So she did try. I know my mom did. So I give her that, but I guess she just didn't really think of how we're thinking. And I think it's
Mhm.
just we are a lot more knowledgeable, and we were able to connect with people from all over the place. Like what
Yeah.
you just brought up right now, you living on originally from I reside in the East Coast. That's where my residency
Mhm.
is. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, even though I'm technically in the West Coast right now, I'm just gonna say like you're on the other side of the country, and you just gave me something that is very valuable. Like I didn't even think of that. Just like really embedding those words into your child at a very young age can really, I
Yes.
think that can help.
Yeah. It helps.
That's actually really smart.
Yeah, I think it's embedding, especially for women too. I think it's starting at a young age, telling them they can do it,
Hmm.
building up the confidence so that by the time they are teenagers, hopefully they'll be okay and
Yeah.
to deflect anything that comes at them.
And if it, for some reason it doesn't, I'm sure there'll be another generation with more ideas down the road. The goal is to keep getting better and not getting worse, even though our
Exactly.
world's very interesting. I just believe that like, you just gotta really just associate yourself with the world really. I feel like the world is how you see it. And I've
Yes.
listened to a certain podcast. It's called Mindset Mentor. At least I think that's the one. Um, and they're basically saying like, if you're watching the news is always gonna put out the negative narrative out there.
Mhm.
So they make us want to think that they're just gonna put out there, oh, there was a fire here, a person got shot in like Kentucky, or just such tragic things. And I personally try to like avoid
Me
reading
too.
the
I don't
news,
I
but
don't really watch the news.
yeah, and I don't understand how people like can do that. Like I can't. And I feel, and then the thing is that the human mind just rather hear the negative. Apparently,
Mhm.
like they feed into that or whatever. Like it's so hard
And
to always,
people want to talk about the negative. They want to put their opinion and their input on the negative. Like I
yeah.
have times I'll be spending dinner with my parents and then they watch CNN and then
Oh,
before you know it,
CNN.
yeah, and before you know it, my dad's cussing at the TV. And it's like, why
It's like
yourself?
why? Like why can't we just all listen to a podcast together and like sing Kumbaya or whatever? I don't know, but
But I
it's like,
think it's especially for people who are vulnerable and hearing all that bad stuff all the time, I had to learn that about myself that, you know what? If something is big enough news, I'm going to hear about it, whether it's from social
right? No,
or
smart.
friend.
Yeah, I think the same thing.
Yeah, yeah, like my husband, he's really big into Twitter, and like that's
Hmm.
how I get my news is from my husband
Hmm.
reading Twitter and seeing all these updates. But otherwise, like I don't go out of my way to watch the news because I know it's going to affect me negatively. It's going to put
Hmm.
me in a bad mood. I'm going to think differently, and it's just like, you know what? It's okay. You don't have to always be consuming negative media.
Yeah, and it shouldn't. The reason that there's so much more negative media out there is because that's what sells, unfortunately. And at
Exactly.
the end of the day, it's like these news people are seeing ratings and they see more people looking at the negative.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this is gonna sound super kind of like contradicting of what I'm gonna say, but I hope you can kind of get my point. So my content on Mentally a Badass, the ones that do really well, like it's like I have some reels that go have like 30,000 views and
Nice.
such. Those are the ones that do really well. But those are the ones that are also kind of negative, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not meant to be negative to make someone sad. It's meant to make people laugh.
Yeah.
So, and I've noticed that this like whenever my life's like falling apart, and I make content about it, those are the content that goes viral. But if I like make content where it's like I'm giving advice to better yourself, like it doesn't do as well unless I'm just not doing it correctly. And
Mm-hmm.
then on TikTok, one of my videos got like I think 2.5 million views,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't actually a sad situation because so I was showing up to a funeral, it was my aunt's funeral, and there was a long story short, I got there like 2 to 3 hours late because my flight was delayed, and I was like walking up to the funeral home with a luggage. And
Yeah.
so my dad just randomly took a quick clip of me. And I just thought it was just hysterical how I look. Like if I was just like walking in like fashionably
Yep.
late. So I just thought it
Here
was
I
funny.
am.
So I just randomly posted it on TikTok and I put like when you're blah 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 to whatever late and this and that, just like the stuff that I do, and then it went viral, like
Oh,
2.5 million views, and I'm like, wow, I'm really glad that like my life falling apart is really does well. So when that happened, I was like, tip. So I'm also a social media agency owner, so social media is my
yeah.
life all day every day.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm always like, they always say, if something does really well, hop off of that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, the reason it went viral is because people were probably laughing at my life. So
Yeah.
I'm like, so you're telling me I need to do more topics of my life falling apart, pretty much.
Hmm. I think that also too, just being real with people where,
Yeah,
on Fierce Fighting Spirit, I do mostly post motivational content,
you do. Yeah.
but I think that's where it's kind of like misery likes company. And so I think it's
Hmm.
one aspect where people are happy to see that someone else is feeling down and depressed
Yeah.
like them, but not everyone always takes those steps to try to get better, or they don't know how,
Right.
or need help trying to get to that positive level. But
Yeah.
definitely, yeah, I know like when I'm going through a depressed stage, like I just look at so many depressing like quotes and things like that because it makes me feel better. It makes you feel like you're not
I
alone.
listen to
There's
sad
other
music.
people. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I literally have like an emo playlist that I listen
Me
to,
too.
and like I'm like I just want to cry right now. Like put on this
Have you ever
playlist.
heard of Nessa Barrett?
No.
Oh, you have to listen to her. You will love her. I promise you. Like,
Okay.
I
Check her
promise
out.
you, you will love her. She's was yeah, no, she's great. I'm sorry, I think I cut you off a little bit.
Oh, good. No, yeah, I just think it's like, people when they're feeling down, they want to also know that other people are in their shoes. They're not feeling.
True. That's a good way of thinking about it. Because in my head, I'm just like, I mean, it's getting me the awareness on my account, but I don't want to be like, I'm
I want
really in real life a positive person.
exactly.
I just, but then so I feel like the account is like I do the reels. So basically, I do the reels and Ariel does all the posts, like the actual like graphics. So in her all her content is so positive.
Yeah.
And I every time we think of collabing with people and stuff like that, we're always like, okay, because there's this one person we are trying to collab with, but she never answered me. And I was like, oh, we should collab with her. Because we've been collabing with this other account called Bipolar 2. I don't know if you've
Hmm.
been like noticing with the memes and everything like that. But yeah, she's the one who took over that collaboration. Because it's like the picture post.
Yeah.
And then I do all the podcast stuff. Anyway, so there was this one girl, there was this one account, it's like called something anxiety. And it was like I was like, oh, I want to collab. And I was like, I felt bad. I didn't want to say, oh, can you reach out and do all the collaboration too? Because I wanted to be fair with us doing the work together and not make her
Yeah.
do all the like the work. But then I was like, oh, but like her account is more of like your skill. She's so good
Mm-hmm.
at like thinking of all of these like ways of bettering yourself. I mean, I can be too, but my skill is like more of being comical. And I mean,
Yeah, and that's
it's
where
very
like
like
you're relate.
raw.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're relating to people, and
Yeah, like
that's
I have like the
where
relatable skill.
yeah,
Like she's I'm more open with my mental health than she is. And so I think that's like so she's like really good at like really thinking thoroughly on certain like ideas and creativity, and she's great at graphics and copyright, and I'm like
yeah,
the person that's willing to just talk about like my life story and really get like
yeah,
raw and just not care. Um that's kind of like how like hence the name Mentally a Badass. Fun fact,
yeah.
the brand started originally up as just a podcast, and it was
Okay,
just me just doing Mentally a Badass, but then like she was really helping me a lot in the back end as a really good friend.
yeah.
And then I was like, I told her, I was like, you do know, like, I wouldn't be anything without you. I'm like, why don't we just go like half and half on this
There
brand
you go.
and just bring
And I
more
love it.
value to the
Yeah,
actual name to it? Um,
and it's like
but
you're
yeah,
balancing each other out. Like you're the raw, realistic, behind the scenes of life, and then she's bringing the other content of like,
which is, yeah. When I was seeing that, I was like, because another thing too, like, she's just so much better at graphics than I am. And also it's really a lot of work to be doing like 6 posts a week.
yeah,
So it's good to like separate it. And then also we did talk too about like we're gonna be starting a blog. The blog
there you
should
go.
be out by the time this podcast comes out, or we're looking to launch it in February.
Nice.
Yeah, so we decided to like let's make a blog out of it. And create even more content. So we're really gonna have like video content, written content, social content.
I love it.
Yeah. And then we have another big thing happening at the end of 2023. I don't want to like bring it up because we really didn't like actually start yet. And I don't want to like say what it is on the
It'll be a
podcast.
surprise.
Yeah, but it's like huge, but we're trying to like get more eyes on us and stuff like that. But anyway, let's talk more about you.
Yeah.
I sometimes have these tangents. That's when my ADD comes out and my brain's just all over the place. So let's talk about your therapy. How old were
Mhm.
you when you first started going to a therapist?
Was about 12 years old. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like 15.
Yeah. I was 12 years old. It was when I finally told my parents about what happened to me as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, right away, they put me in therapy to
Mm-hmm.
make sure I was okay. And it was actually very interesting because when I was 12, I was still in the mode of, I just want to hide this. I don't want to talk about it. I just brought it up because it finally was getting very overwhelming. I actually was kind of suicidal at age 12, and I needed help. But I wasn't fully invested yet of like, I'm going to really handle therapy. Like I kind of just told the therapist what she wanted to hear. That way I would be discharged. Like I was not comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then finally I went back to therapy when I was like 15, 16. And by this time I was very close with my counselor, and I was also part of a support group with 5 other girls, who we all went through the same experience. And that was honestly one of the best times of my life. Like I felt I was able to truly talk about what happened to me. I was
Mm-hmm.
able to hear other girls' experience, to know I wasn't alone.
Mm-hmm.
So I highly recommend, if you're going through something, not only, yes, get that personal, private, one-on-one counseling and therapy you need, but
Mm-hmm.
also think about a support group. Think
Yeah.
about going to a group where you can bounce ideas or hear other people's experiences or share emotions with other people to, again, know that you're not alone, know that there are other people that go through similar things. And I think the last time I went to therapy was in 2020. I was having a bipolar episode where usually my episodes are more manic, but this time I was having a very depressive episode. And it was again where I was having suicidal intentions. And I honestly just went on Google, searched all therapists in the San Diego area, and I went to the first girl that reached out to me, and I saw her probably for about 5 sessions to just get back on track and get balanced again.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, and I'm actually even currently um, wavering with the idea of just seeing a therapist maybe once every other month, just to, just now that I'm like newly married, my husband and I are going to be going through stuff and want to start a family. Like, I'm going to be going through a lot of life changes, and there's nothing wrong with just having a little bit of extra support.
Hmm.
So I'm thinking about just seeing someone again. I do have it where I see my psychiatrist because I take medication for the bipolar. I do see my psychiatrist about once a month, and I've been with this doctor now for about 3 years.
Wow. Did it take for you like some time to find like the perfect match? I know you said you've seen multiple.
Yes. So I feel like for counselors, definitely, if you're going through something and you need that big support, you definitely want to make sure you can vibe with that person. You want to make sure you can feel comfortable, you like their personality. And it is sometimes it may take a couple people until you find that right person. Even with my psychiatrist, the person I have now, he, again, I was going through an episode and he reached out to me. He told me, here's your appointment date, but if you need something, even if it's at midnight or 2 a.m., please reach out to me. And I just really liked that,
That's
you know,
awesome.
yeah. So I even now I have it where I may not have an appointment for 2 weeks, but all of a sudden I feel myself getting manic.
Hmm.
I'll come up and right away get an appointment to make sure I'm okay. And so it's just really finding a psychiatrist or a therapist or a counselor that fits for you.
Hmm.
Whether you need daily support or weekly, monthly support, it's about finding someone who will help you along the way and that you get along with and you feel comfortable sharing these intimate feelings with.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on that. And that's pretty like awesome to have a therapist that would say, "Hey, even if it's midnight, like you can reach out to me." Like I feel like most people wouldn't be like that. But and also with bipolar, it's kind of like some weeks can be fine and then some weeks are just like a mess. I always feel like my one of some of my challenges with therapy, I've been like in and out of therapy is like I can be stable for like 2 weeks and then like or like out of nowhere I'll like go into a depressive mode. Like I feel like I get more of the depression part,
Okay.
where it's like real like all of a sudden I could just like have a switch.
Yeah.
And I feel like I kind of try to like help myself. I mean, I do have like a background in psychology, fun fact. I have an undergrad degree in
Nice.
psychology. I just never went to like being a counselor or therapist just because I felt like I wouldn't be a good fit for the job because I would probably cry with people. I don't think I'm
Yeah.
also very empathetic. So I don't think I can make a career like every like day to be hearing. I mean, I'm here for people, obviously, and I'm always want to be here for people, but I don't think making it like because your full-time job is like a big part of your life.
Right.
Um, and I don't think, and also I'm like responsible for
Yeah.
making sure that they don't jump off a bridge. I know how dark that just sounded, but you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. You're in
I don't,
charge of that person.
yeah, like if for some, like, so if something were to like happen, like if they commit suicide or whatever, like I would feel that guilt.
Yeah.
So I don't think I can be like that number one. Like, I mean, of course, I love to be and help others, and um, if they need to like talk to somebody, like, and I've had people in the past like reach out to me randomly, like on my DMs, like venting to me, and that's fine. They'll be a complete stranger. I had one person who was like, I think she was like 19. Yeah, she was telling me some like, oh, she's okay, but I haven't heard from her in a while. But long story short, I've had people like reach out to me via DMs, and I've on the other side have reached out to people when I was in the dark space to
Yeah.
like this one influencer, and she like actually like talked to me, and I'm just very impressed with that because she's someone who has like almost 70,000 followers, and like she takes the time to like answer me, which
Yeah.
is
It's good.
which is
Nah.
great, which is insane. Well, which is good. Good, but she also is a mental advocate herself.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah, no, she inspired me to like talk about things online as well, and she's fantastic. People are universally attracted to cute things. Plus, your everyday anxiety will be magically calm once you start to color. Coloring is proven to be an effective way to de-stress and relieve anxiety by activating the parasympathetic nervous system. This is why I created the Mentally a Badass coloring book. It is a self-affirmation color book with inspirational affirmations to help you feel better about yourself and give you the confidence you need in life. Order Mentally a Badass coloring book today on Amazon. The link will be in the podcast description. So let's transition into talking about your advocacy. So what made you want to become a mental health advocate? I know we talked a lot about what you went through, and I feel like the answer is very like obvious. But when was that moment where you're just like, okay, I want to go on social media and I want to spread mental health awareness?
Yeah. So at first I made my Instagram Fierce Fighting Spirit. It actually started in a different name.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually more of a like physical health. Like I was doing it was during COVID, and I actually was doing more like, hey, wine and weights Wednesday night Zoom.
You
Like
say wine and weights?
yeah.
That's dope.
I had a class where I would lead a workout program while drinking
Okay.
wine with the
That's
people.
that's so funny. I love that. I would have totally joined. I
Yes.
love wine.
So yeah, so my Instagram actually started out that way, but then I started realizing, like, talking to other people, posting content, and then also during this time, like, I did go through an episode. I was being more open with just close friends and family about my bipolar. Like,
Mm-hmm.
something just hit me where I was kind of like, you know what? We already have so many people always telling us that we need to lose weight or you need to eat this or blah 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 blah, which is fine in a way, but at the same time that's not all there is to life. Like, it's about being a good person, having a
Right.
healthy attitude, being well balanced. And I finally saw that shift in myself as well,
Mm-hmm.
where I was personally telling people around me more about my bipolar. And
Mm-hmm.
then they were opening up to me about their issues. And
Mm-hmm.
now I even have it where sometimes I'll talk with people and they'll be like, hey, like, I want to tell you this because I know you have bipolar and you know where I'm coming from. And just starting to see that
Mm-hmm.
was like, you know what? I'm going to make Fierce Fighting Spirit. I'm going to make it about mental health. And especially now that there is starting to be less and less stigma about it, is
Mm-hmm.
amazing. Because when I was diagnosed with bipolar in 2010, it was low key awful, where it was like a secret that I was taking meds. It was a secret that I was seeing a doctor. It was also kind of a thing where, like, in family, it was like, oh, well, Amanda was in the hospital again. And it was just it was very strange,
Yeah.
very hush hush. But
Yeah.
now, I feel like the atmosphere, especially with just other stuff that you see where, I'm a big sports person,
Mm-hmm.
especially the San Diego Chargers, or used to be, but like Junior Seau, he was a beloved football player, Hall of Famer, and he committed suicide. And now it's being looked at of how the brain is being so impacted when you're playing football and how that affects you. So it's even just small stuff like that where people are now seeing and society is seeing that mental health is real. Whereas before you were just seen as a mess up or you had
Mm-hmm.
problems. But now it's starting to have the atmosphere of that you can reach out for help. It's normal. Going through hard emotions is fine. And I just really feel that, I can be one of those people that can talk about it, relate to it, and help people along the way.
Yeah, I see a lot of like me, well, me and you or you and me or whatever. I don't know who's older. Um but I mean I feel like we are have like this the same mindset. Is basically,
Yeah.
what I'm saying. And I had a particular thought and I completely forgot.
And
Has that ever happened to you? I mean, I feel like that happens to well, I mean, I was diagnosed also with ADHD, and people say that ADHD is like part of bipolar. Some people say that, or it's just like it's not ADHD and it's just like a symptom of bipolar. I mean,
Mm,
it's very complex. So, I mean, I've been to multiple therapists. Some were like, majority were like, yeah, you're bipolar, and then one was like, oh no, you just have ADHD. So
huh.
it's just a
Interesting.
lot of the misdiagnosis and stuff. I honestly,
Yeah.
it's concerns me sometimes, and I just like wish that I can just get like a brain scan, and then they can just tell me what I actually have instead of like guessing, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, not guessing. I'm not going to say that. I know they went to school and everything on the DSM. But I see here, and Ariel told me that you have an Etsy shop for Fierce
Yes,
Fighting
I
Spirit.
do. Yes. So, um, it's also Fierce Fighting Spirit is Etsy, and I
Oh,
sell motivational clothing.
really? That's pretty cool. I didn't
Yeah.
see that. So I'm glad that she did her digging. I love you, Ariel, if you can hear this.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, so like some of my things will have like a flower with like love is kind, or I have one shirt that says
oh,
progress over perfection. Yeah, just like different articles of clothing that just have good, valued mindset quotes, and just again, just now that we live in a society and an atmosphere where that's accepted,
mm-hmm.
I'm just, have that Etsy that, if you want to wear it loud and proud, go for it.
Yeah, fun fact, what I'm wearing right now,
Mhm.
this is actually a new brand. It's called Hopeless Mope. And they
Right.
actually reached out to me and they said, hey, we love your content. We want to send you one of our I guess article of clothing. And I was like, yeah, I'll give you a sweater.
There
But
you go.
so they're an apparel company, a mental health apparel company, and I've been noticing a lot more apparel mental health apparel companies. Um, and the reason I'm bringing them up is because you're saying how, it's not as stigmatized as back in 2010. And I'm really think it's really awesome the founder of this company making this kind of this like
Ah,
basically like showing like sad feelings or like wearing your feelings. That's like their slogan is like wear your feelings
love it.
um matter. So like the way they have it written in their bio is they spell wear as WEAR, where
Ah,
your feelings, and then they put a period and then it says matters. And I'm like,
there
that's
you go.
so I think their brand is super unique. Um, by the way, this is a not sponsored thing, but you should totally check out Helpless Mope. Just because I like to support, small businesses and stuff like that. And I think that
Yeah,
uh,
and it's important.
yeah, and like I think that they deserve a lot more of a following and stuff. Right now they have about 1,000 followers, and I'm like, you guys deserve so much more, but I don't know. I mean, I
No,
think people are just probably like agree with them, but still they probably don't want to think in their head because a lot of people when they talk about mental health, people who don't really get it, they're just like, oh, we don't want to be around people who are negative, and we don't listen to sad music or this and that.
yeah,
Like, but I like to change the perspective on that conversation. Like, I feel like I'm a big believer on feeling your emotions. Like, if you're
yes,
sad, like be sad,
yeah,
like listen to the music, do whatever you gotta do. Like a lot of society doesn't, obviously no one likes to be sad, but they
right.
always try to like mask it. They always, and the fact that that was the last post on the Instagram account. A lot of people like to mask it and just like not show it, um, because they feel embarrassed. So I think
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting how like this
Or
apparel
they don't know
companies,
how to cope with it or handle it.
yeah, and they feel like they're being, they're scared to be judged. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
like so with this kind of apparel, like I think one of the shirts says like I'm trash or something like that. Like I don't know. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just something like that where people don't want like you're basically if you feel like garbage, it's like wear that you can wear that hoodie out.
Yeah,
And you people and people like I think kind of get what I'm saying. I think they had definitely a good approach to it. I really
I
hope
think
it
it's just
does really
yeah, it's just
well.
also spreading awareness,
Yeah.
like telling people like it's okay to be sad, it's okay to not be okay, and I think that's something that we're so sometimes focused on the positive emotions, but
Mm-hmm.
there's a whole spectrum of emotions, and you can't just only exclude yourself to happy emotions. Like, no, like you said, if you're sad, then cry or journal
Yeah.
or talk to someone. And that's actually really big in like my marriage,
Mm-hmm.
and talk about all the time. Like if my husband has a bad day at work, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not just there and be like, well, you should be happy because of this. Like, no, I just listen, and
Yeah.
I let him be sad. I don't expect him to talk to me most of the night, or I let him just watch TV. And
Yeah.
I think that's very important for people as well, that if you have someone that reaches out to you and says, I'm feeling depressed, or I'm angry, or I'm sad, don't necessarily, like, obviously give advice, but like also just sit and listen. Like sometimes people just want to be heard, and they just want to
Mm-hmm.
vent, and they don't always want solutions to make it go away. Obviously, like, that is a working goal, that you should get out of your hard spots, but that's part of just life, is that sometimes you do just have to soak it in and you know experience that emotion.
Yeah, and I feel like hopefully the more and more people talk about it, and more it just clicks in some people's minds, because I also feel like people don't really understand like mental health and mental illness unless something happens to them, which is like kind of sad. I don't know if you knew about this person. His name, well, his stage name, not his real name, is Twitch. I don't know if you heard about him and how he
Yeah.
committed suicide. I was in shock,
Oh no.
complete, because I don't know if you watch any of his content.
Like, I knew
Um,
Ellen, and he was on that
he,
dancing show back in the day.
yeah, and he was
Yeah.
also the host on Disney Fairy Tale Weddings, him and his wife.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's how I discovered him, is the Disney's Fairy Tale Weddings show. And obviously I know it's acting. People always pretend to be happy, and especially with Disney, I used to work for Disney, so they always just like, yeah. But I would follow him on socials, him and his wife on TikTok, and like they always do their dancing. It's just so much fun. And they would just show like, their family, and their kids are adorable. And they just, obviously I know no one's life is perfect,
Hmm.
but it's just like he had it all. He had
Yeah.
a beautiful wife, beautiful kids, big house, like all this fame and money. And all of a sudden, one day I'm on Instagram and I'm seeing RIP Twitch, and it's saying they committed suicide. I'm like,
Yeah.
what? Was he
It's
just
so
like dancing
sad.
like 2 days ago or like a day ago, whatever?
Yeah.
And that's where I was like, I did not expect that at all. I
Yeah.
mean, there was like one, excuse me, there was this one video that him and his wife were talking about racism and stuff. Like their other videos, usually pretty much almost all their videos are very positive and have high energy.
Right.
And then but they
Right.
did have one sitting down video about, this, what's going on in the world, and all of that. Um so that's where he was, was being real. But but still, even after that, I did not expect. I expected, yeah, he probably could be battling depression and just
Right.
not showing it on social media, which most people do. So that's where he was, was being real. But but still, even after that, I did not expect. I expected, yeah, he probably could be battling depression and just
Right.
not showing it on social media, which most people do. Like they just show like their best highlights on social
Ex-
media. So that's just
Exactly.
what I thought. Like, yeah, you can have just some, maybe some family challenges here and there and some depression. I didn't think he was bad to the point where he would take his life.
Right. And that's what's so sad, is like, whenever you hear that news, or you have a friend or a family member that happens to, in a way it really affects you, because you're like, how could I have done different? What could I have done? But that's also
Yeah.
just keeping in mind, though, that check on your friends, be real with people, make sure people get the support they need. But when someone does something like that, it's just, you kind of just, and it's really hard. And I think about Robin Williams as
Yeah.
well.
Mm-hmm.
And even now, watching some of his old movies, he kind of drops like killing myself jokes. And it's really hard to watch, because you're like, oh my gosh, like, was that a cry for help? Like, it's in the movie, like, and it's just so sad, and you just wish you could help. And but you just do the best you can, and you try to help as much as you can.
It is also really hard to know if it was a cry or help, or not. The reason I say this because I do a lot of dark humor all the
Mm-hmm.
time, but I don't want to like kill myself.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been through moments in my, that I've been suicidal and I've been there and stuff like that. But right now, currently, as we're speaking, I don't like feel like that.
Yeah.
So, but I still just make those jokes. So I guess it's like it's free. Think about it. It's like it's really hard to know.
Yeah.
And that's
It's
when, like I
it,
said, with
it
thing with Twitch, that scared me because I'm like, I get so nervous, like
and I think
around,
yeah, and I think that's where it's like this is why we do have these podcasts and these blogs and these Instagrams and all these ways to show people that it's going to be okay because
hmm
maybe he didn't have that in his life. Maybe he was only surrounded by his work. Maybe for some reason his family was a burden, or we just don't know, but that's why
we have no idea
yeah,
about his
we have no
life.
idea, but that's why we do what we do, because
hmm
even if you hear back that one person listened to your podcast or read your blog or saw your post and that kept them from doing something dangerous,
hmm
that's what it's all about. And that's the whole reason for advocacy and awareness, is so that people don't feel alone
hmm
and they can feel out, they can reach out for help, know that, it can get better.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, who knows? Like, even someone listening can be like their last straw, and they listen to this and they're like, okay, I'm not alone. I can reach out to her and say hey or whatever, which they can
Yeah,
if they really want to.
definitely, definitely.
But yeah, I just honestly lately, I don't know if you've been noticing or it's just the way the algorithm is with me. I've just been seeing so many like suicides lately, and I'm like,
Yeah, it's so
eh,
sad. I saw something about like a 12-year-old girl or something.
yeah, I've been
Yeah,
seeing like children, and I'm like,
children, children. And again, I think it's just, the stigma is getting better, but there's still
so much
still a lot
work,
of work, yeah, a lot of work to
so
be done.
much.
And that's why, that's why you keep talking to friends and people, letting people know that it's okay to talk about your emotions, and just spreading that awareness, spreading that advocacy, so
hmm
that it does get better. And hopefully, if someone's going through something, they have the courage to reach out.
Yeah, and I think that's like the courage part is the biggest thing, but also, I mean, this would be a whole other podcast, but I have a lot to say about the actual like professional system and
Oh, yeah,
like
definitely.
I think that we're here to help to get to encourage people to reach out, but I honestly just like feel like the whole industry, like the whole professional, like it's so hard to lately. It's been really hard to afford mental health.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
and everyone doesn't have the same situation. Like right now, I mean, right now my insurance, like my health insurance doesn't really cover mental health.
Oh, no.
And well, when I was working for Disney, it did. It was great. And it was like $20 sessions. It was awesome and I miss it. But I wanted to work for myself. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. But so I was using BetterHelp. Um, and it was like, I think almost $300 a month for me.
Yeah.
But you get like 4 sessions. So I was like, okay, if you're getting 4 sessions, like
Like once a
that's not
week.
bad.
Yeah.
Um, but I didn't have a bad experience, but I wasn't really have a good experience.
Yeah.
Meaning like I just didn't really connect. I didn't really feel like I think the value that I wasn't really getting much value out of it, to be honest with you. By the way, if anyone's listening and thinking about doing BetterHelp, definitely do it. If you can. I'm not saying anything bad about BetterHelp. BetterHelp was fine. The actual company itself. It was just more of just the therapist I felt wasn't the right fit. I felt that I knew a little bit more than her. And I felt like bipolar is so complex.
It really is.
It
Yeah.
is. And I felt like she probably would do fine if she had a client that was just generalized anxiety or something like that. Like someone who's just like learning coping skills for life stressors. Well, with me, I have some deep trauma um and like that I have to work through. And I need somebody who can really help me dig deep into all of that because I got really messed up and that's what I need. So it just wasn't a good fit and I think I probably should go back to doing it.
Yeah. But
um
yeah. It really is. Like they're just, unfortunately, if you don't have health insurance or you do have health insurance and it doesn't cover, it
Yeah.
really is like it's so hard
So
to
expensive. It'll
get
be
it.
like
So expensive.
$200 for a psychiatry like appointment.
Yeah. And even like for me with insurance that covers medication, I'm still paying about $50 every time I get my medication once a month.
Oh
And
wow.
and it's just it's differed with every insurance I've been with depending on like who my, employer is and stuff.
Yeah.
Currently right now I pay about $50 for my medication
hmm
that I need to stay sane.
Yeah. We have to pay to stay alive.
Yeah,
I know.
exactly.
Yeah. You ever heard of good? Do you ever use Good RX?
No, but I've heard good things about it.
You should definitely try and see if you can find any coupons for your medication. See if that helps you out a little bit.
Okay.
Recommend it.
Yeah, no.
Um, yeah, it's like goodrx.com or something like that. That's what I was told. Like if your insurance like doesn't cover certain things, GoodRx may have a really good deal for you. So
There we go. Yeah.
yeah, anything that can help because I think that's just and then without like insurance, the medication would be like hundreds of dollars. And it's like I hate the pharmaceutical
Yeah. Oh my God.
companies.
I could go on a rant.
Oh yeah. It's just they're like $1 billion industry.
Oh yeah. Or just even
And
like the price of insulin doesn't isn't not
that's
it's
scary
not
because people
made.
literally like at least with like
Yeah.
bipolar we have a chance. Well, with like insulin, it's like that's like if you don't got it and you're diabetic, like you can literally die.
Yeah. Yeah. In days. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
It's
that's so
scary.
disturbing. It's like disturbing as in like if they don't help you out. Like even if let's say you don't like have the money or something like that for some reason, or
Mm-hmm.
you don't have like any access to cash or credit or whatever, what is the pharmacy person gonna say? Oh, sorry, I'll see you at your funeral.
Yeah.
Like
It's so sad.
I
It's
can
crazy. I
never
know.
work. I
And
can never ever work in the health industry or anything that involves life or death because I cannot. Like there's times when I used to work for Disney, I would have to like say no for certain things with guests that I didn't agree with the company that I felt was wrong, but it wasn't like a life or death situation. You know
right.
what I mean? It's like, oh, if I
Right.
can't refund you for your like bad experience at a party, like that's not you're not gonna die. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
So, um, but but yeah, that's why I can't work in that kind. I honestly give props to like people who are like in those kind of like careers. Honestly, they
Yeah.
deserve to get paid
Yeah.
more.
Definitely. Agreed.
Yeah. So before we end this, Amanda, I always like to ask all my guests for any last piece of advice to anyone who is listening to this right now. If you just had like one last thing to say.
I think my last thing that I'd like to say is because how we did talk about, childhood trauma and
Mm-hmm.
going through what you're going through is that remember there's always a light at the end of the tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
And also, life is like a deck of cards. You
Mm-hmm.
never know what hand you're going to get, but you have the choice to play those cards. And that's it.
Yeah, no, that's a good quote. That's a really good quote. Is that like a quote that you made or like
No, I think I just would be very philosophical, but
Yeah,
no, I think
I love
I read that.
philosophy.
Yeah, I read that somewhere, but I that's a quote that I actually think about a lot, and especially
Mm-hmm.
when I'm faced with a challenge or adversity or something bad happens,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it helps me to remember, I can't control the bad stuff that happens, but I can control how I react to it
No,
and
that's a
how I
hundred
choose to go
percent.
forward. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's honestly these life quotes are so powerful. Honestly, like
They are.
if you
I love
know
quotes.
that you can't control other people's like behavior, you can only control how you react to it, and you can only be
Exactly.
responsible for yourself and
Exactly.
bettering yourself and the energy instead of like putting energy into like oh why is that person acting like this? Oh that person's so annoying or oh like this is that, which we've all done it. We're all human,
Mhm.
but is learning to think differently and to be like okay how can I like really work on like reacting differently.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And switching that mindset. Cause that's like one of the hardest things. And it takes a lot of time because
Yeah.
humans were originally like conditioned like to think negative and it's easier for the brain to think negative than positive.
Exactly.
That is a fact. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on here. I'm so glad you
Yeah, thank
found
you for
us.
having me. Yes.
Yeah, cheers to Instagram and cheers to hashtags. Got to
Yes.
use that mental health advocate hashtag a lot. But no, I really do appreciate it. I'm going to put all of your socials in the bio. I'll also
Awesome. Yeah,
put in your VA too, because you never know, maybe someone needs one.
definitely.
You never know.
You're my fierce fighting spirit and your
Yeah.
assistant Amanda.
Yeah, put that all in the descriptions if you want to follow her. But yeah, I want to say thanks to everyone who has been listening. I hope you have a good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. And I hope you enjoy next week's video. Cheers.